There comes a point in your life where your peace becomes more valuable than proving your point. When you've explained yourself over and over, when you've repeated your worth to people who only respond with silence or sarcasm. There comes a moment when words lose their power and silence becomes your only language. That's when you learn to disappear. Not out of weakness, not because you lost, but because you finally understood. You were never meant to stay where your presence is taken for granted. When someone disrespects you, the world teaches you to confront, to fight, to defend your name. But what if your greatest power wasn't in the confrontation, but in the quiet exit? No drama, no farewell speech, no final text, just distance. You stop calling, you stop explaining, you stop waiting for someone to wake up and realize how deeply they mishandled your presence. You simply disappear. And that silence, it speaks louder than anything you could have said. Because here's what people don't realizing: when you go quiet, when you remove your energy without a scene, it creates a void, a space where you used to show up. A space where your consistency, your love, your kindness once lived. And now it's just empty, cold, quiet. And in that quiet, they start to hear what they refused to listen to before. They hear the sound of their own behavior echoing back at them. They replay the conversations, the missed calls, the ignored efforts. And suddenly, your silence becomes a mirror, a reflection of everything they refused to see when you were still speaking. It's in your absence that people truly start to notice your value, because you were never loud about your love. You were steady. You were consistent. You gave even when it wasn't returned. You showed up even when they didn't ask you to. But the moment you disappear, not with anger, not with revenge, just with dignity, that's when the regret begins. They start to ask you, why did they stop texting? Why do I feel this emptiness where they used to be? Were they really that important in my life? And the answer is yes. But now it's too late. You see, disappearing without drama isn't about being passive. It's not about running away. It's about reclaiming your peace without the need for applause. It's about understanding that closure isn't always a conversation. Sometimes it's a choice, a private, quiet decision to stop giving energy to what no longer nourishes your soul. You don't have to make a scene to make an impact. You don't have to curse anyone out. You don't have to post about healing or explain why you walked away. You just go. And the silence you leave behind becomes your legacy. People will remember your absence more than your presence, because now the access is cut off. The warmth is gone, and the door they never thought would close is locked. You gave them chances. You gave them time. You gave them kindness, but they gave you reasons. Reasons to finally choose yourself. So when you disappear, do it with grace. Do it with peace. Do it knowing that your silence is a message only the mature will understand. You didn't leave to punish them. You left to protect you, because the truth is you don't need to be louder. You just need to be gone. And let your absence teach them what your presence could not. Disappear without drama. Let your peace speak the final word. And trust me, they'll hear it loud and clear. Sometimes the best thing you can do is fall off the radar and work on yourself in silence. No announcements, no updates, no need to prove anything to anyone. Just you, rebuilding, refining, and rising in the shadows. Because not everyone deserves a front row seat to your transformation. When people disrespect you, when they overlook you, underestimate you, or treat you like you're replaceable, they don't expect you to grow. They expect you to break. They expect you to shrink. They expect you to chase them, explain yourself, or stay stuck in the version of you they could control. But the most powerful move you'll ever make is to let them believe they've won. While you go silent and start your glow up, you stop explaining your vision. You stop defending your worth. You stop waiting for people to see your value. And instead, you get to work quietly. You hit the gym. Not for attention, but for discipline. You open books, not to impress, but to understand. You invest in your mind, your habits, your boundaries. Not for revenge, but for redemption. Because the truth is, your glow up isn't about becoming someone new. It's about becoming who you were always meant to be before they convinced you were less. Growth doesn't require validation. It requires privacy. It requires space. It requires silence. People love to talk about what they would do in your position. They love to gossip when you're low, mock you when you're quiet, or doubt you when you're healing. But that's fine. Let them. Because while they're talking, you're evolving. While they're watching others, you're watching your habits. While they're focused on noise, you're building peace. And one day, maybe weeks, maybe months, maybe years later, they'll see you again. And they won't recognize you, not because you're loud, not because you posted about it, but because you've changed. There's something different in your posture now, in your tone, in the way you enter a room without seeking approval, because you've finally given it to yourself. You don't beg to be understood anymore. You try to fit into places that made you feel small. You've stopped trying to convince people that you matter, because now you believe it, and that belief has changed everything. That's what a private glow up does. It removes you from the noise long enough for you to hear your own voice again. It strips away the ego and teaches you humility, patience, and power. It teaches you how to love yourself in your rawest form, before the praise, before the claps, before the recognition. So stop broadcasting every step. Stop explaining every move. Stop posting every achievement just to prove your value to people who only saw your flaws. Let your results be the announcement. Let your peace be the confirmation. Let your presence be the revenge. Because the most satisfying moment won't be when they finally notice you. It'll be when you no longer care if they do. That's when you know the glow up is real. Not when your clothes change. Not when your bank account rises. Not even when your body transforms, but when your mindset upgrades, when your standards shift, when your heart no longer aches for people who couldn't handle your love. You don't need to be seen to be valuable. You don't need applause to be powerful. You don't need to be loud to be undeniable. So disappear into discipline, withdraw into your work, sink into the silence, and let the world wonder where you went until the day they see who you became. This is your season of silence, your chapter of private battles, of quiet healing, steady building, and intentional growth. Don't ruin it by explaining it. Glow up privately, evolve quietly, and when it's time, let your presence speak for itself. Not everything deserves your reaction. Not every relationship deserves your loyalty, and not every situation needs your explanation. Sometimes you just need to detach, fully, without warning, without a final conversation, without justifying your exit to the people who gave you every reason to leave in the first place. You don't owe anyone closure when they had every chance to treat you right and chose not to. You don't owe someone an explanation for walking away when they repeatedly made you feel like you didn't matter. The most powerful form of self-respect is silent detachment, because it says, I've seen enough, I've felt enough, I've given enough. No yelling or drama, no final words, just distance. People notice when your energy is no longer available. They notice when your presence fades, when your responses shrink, when your kindness goes quiet, and the silence you leave behind. That's what makes them listen, far more than your words ever did. The truth is, if someone cared, they would have changed when you were still speaking. They would valued you when they had access to you. They would have made effort before it was too late. But when your kindness gets mistaken for weakness, when your patience is stretched thin, and your loyalty is taken advantage of, that's your signal. It's not your job to convince anyone to appreciate you. It's your job to cheer yourself when they refuse to. So you detach, because you stopped caring, but because you finally started caring about yourself. It's one of the hardest things you'll ever do, because detachment doesn't mean you didn't love them. It means you loved yourself enough to walk away from the version of you that tolerated what you knew you didn't deserve. You stop replying to energy that drains you. You stop explaining to people committed to misunderstanding you. You stop showing up for those who never noticed when you were present. It's not punishment, it's protection. You protect your peace. You protect your mind. You protect your heart from being pulled into conversations that only exist to keep you stuck. The truth is, people can feel when you detach. They feel it in the silence. They feel it in the distance. They feel it in the way you no longer ask, no longer beg, no longer try. And that shift, That's what makes them question themselves, because while you were explaining your pain, they weren't listening. While you were expressing your needs, they were ignoring them. But now that you've gone quiet, they hear you loud and clear. Detachment is not cold, it's clarity. It's saying, I refuse to keep repeating myself in places where I'm only heard when I'm gone. You don't have to block them. You don't have to announce your healing. You don't have to throw shade or burn bridges. You simply stop crossing the bridge for them. You let the connection dissolve quietly, and the next time they look for you, you're gone. Not bitter, not angry, just unavailable. Because peace is better than proving a point. Growth is better than getting even. And sometimes walking away silently is the most powerful thing you'll ever do. People will notice. They always do. But by then, it won't matter. Because your healing doesn't depend on their understanding. Your peace doesn't need their approval. And your worth was never supposed to be defined by how long you could endure being undervalued. So if they ask, why did you leave? Let them wonder. Let your silence speak for you. Let your absence teach the lesson that your presence never could. You don't owe anyone your peace. You don't owe them your energy. And you never owe anyone your explanation for finally choosing you. Detach without noise. Detach without guilt. Detach without explanation. And watch how your soul begins to breathe again. There's a moment when everything in you wants to explode. When your name is disrespected. When your love is taken for granted. When someone lies about you, underestimates you, provokes you, hoping you'll lose your control. That's when they expect the chaos, they expect the yelling, the reaction, the breakdown. They want to see you crack because your calmness threatens them. Your peace is too loud. Your silence is too strong. But the most powerful thing you can ever do is to remain calm when the storm is screaming your name. They want you to match their energy. They want to pull you into their emotional mess. They want to see you break character just once so they can point the finger and say, see, you're no better than me. But don't give them the satisfaction, because real power doesn't react. It observes. It calculates. It chooses its moment. And most of the time, that moment is no response at all. Calm is not weakness. It's mastery. It's the ability to stand in the middle of chaos and still breathe with clarity. People who are loud often lack control. They yell to be heard because deep down, they know their words carry no weight. But when you respond with calm, with poise, with quiet confidence, it makes them uncomfortable because now they have to deal with themselves. Your stillness becomes a mirror to their noise. Your emotional discipline exposes their emotional immaturity. It's a different kind of strength. The kind that doesn't need to prove itself. Because real strength isn't how hard you hit. It's how little you're moved by people trying to knock you off balance. Let them gossip. Let them project. Let them throw their tantrums and play their games. You stay grounded. You stay focused. You stay above it. Not because you think you're better, but because you know what's beneath you. Never let small minds convince you to abandon your growth. Never let chaos drag you back into a version of yourself you've outgrown. Sometimes the best clap back is peace. Sometimes the strongest comeback is your silence. And sometimes the deepest revenge is how little they affect you now. You weren't made to chase noise. You weren't born to argue for your worth. You were built for stillness, for presence, for power that doesn't shout because it doesn't need to. You don't have to defend every lie. You don't have to react to every insult. You don't have to explain yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. Some things aren't worth your energy. If they expect chaos and you give them calm, you win. If they expect a reaction and you give them growth, you rise. If they want drama and you give them detachment, you destroy the game. Because emotional control isn't just maturity, it's strategy. And peace isn't a mindset, it's power. They can't figure you out when you're calm. They can't trigger you when you've healed. They can't control when you've mastered yourself. So keep your tone steady, keep your movements measured, keep your energy clean, and above all, keep your peace sacred. Because peace isn't passive, It's the choice to protect what others keep trying to destroy in you. And when you protect it long enough, you realize you never needed to fight. You just needed to stop showing up to battles that weren't yours. So the next time they expect the chaos, give them calm and watch how loud your silence becomes.